I was only 14 years old. Just an ordinary girl from a small town where everyone knows each other, and every mistake quickly becomes the talk of the town. My days passed in an endless loop of school, home, homework, rare meetings with friends. Inside I was quiet, invisible, as if I was hiding in the shadows of the world around me. My mom worked as a nurse. She was always busy and tired. In the evenings when I came home she was usually already asleep, exhausted from her shift. My dad had been gone for a long time. He left when I was very little and Mom hardly ever talked about him. Sometimes I'd look through an old photo album where he smiled in pictures, but that was all that was left of him. I often wondered if maybe he had forgotten about me. At school I was unnoticed. My classmates chatted about boys, shared secrets, made plans for the future while I just quietly listened and dreamed that someday someone would look at me differently. But everyone passed me by as if I didn't exist. Then one summer everything changed. He appeared suddenly as if out of nowhere. Daniar, a guy 5 years older than me working at a nearby auto repair shop, riding a motorcycle and seeming like a real adult man. When he approached me near school and said, "You're beautiful," my heart started pounding so loudly I thought everyone around could hear it. No one had ever said anything like that to me before. He gave me his phone number, asked me not to tell anyone about our conversations and said it was our secret. I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew my life would never be the same. Every day I waited for his messages, read them over and over, smiled, and believed that I had finally found someone who truly saw me. Every morning I woke up thinking about Daniar, and every night I fell asleep reading his messages on my phone. He knew all my fears and dreams and I thought he was my savior. We met in secret, in empty yards inside his car far away from prying eyes. He taught me how to ride a motorcycle, told me stories from his life and promised to protect me and love me forever. But his love came with conditions. "No one can know about us," he said repeatedly. "If my family finds out, they'll tear us apart." I wanted to believe it was for our safety, so I agreed, though a small voice inside me started to whisper doubts. Still, I was young and in love, and I chose to close my eyes to everything else. He became my whole world, my love, my refuge, my reason to smile. Sometimes it felt like nothing could stop us, that we would overcome any obstacles together. I dreamed of a future with him, even though deep down I sensed the shadows creeping in. Every stolen moment with him felt like a secret treasure. We would sit under the old oak tree behind the garages where no one ever came and talk for hours. I would look at his face and feel my heart fill with warmth. He would hold my hand tightly, whispering promises I wanted to believe. Yet I was aware, the more I loved him, the more I had to hide. We kept our relationship a secret from my parents, my friends, even from some of his closest people. The weight of that secrecy grew heavier with every passing day. One evening I remember him telling me, "If this gets out, it's over. You'll lose everything, your family, your school, your friends." The fear in his voice was real, but so was the fear I felt inside. I nodded silently, even though I wanted to scream that I didn't want to lose him. I thought that love was supposed to be free and open, but with Daniar it was a locked room where I was trapped, happy to be there but afraid to leave. Looking back now, I realize how young and naive I was. I wanted to believe in his love so badly that I ignored the warning signs. The secret meetings, the demands, the growing distance whenever I spoke about my family or my future. But at the time he was my entire world. And I was willing to risk everything for him. At first I tried to ignore the missed period. I thought it was just stress or fatigue. But the longer it went, the more anxious I became. One day I bought a pregnancy test, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. When the 2 lines appeared, I froze. I was pregnant. The word echoed loudly in my mind, filling me with fear and despair. I messaged Daniar, hoping for support, but he didn't reply for a long time. When he finally did, his voice was cold and distant. "Are you sure?" I confirmed. Then silence. After a few days he told me he wasn't ready to be a father and didn't want to see me. His words, "I don't know you," cut deep. I was left alone with this terrible secret. Rumors spread at school. My parents were shocked. Friends disappeared. I felt like the whole world turned its back on me. Loneliness and fear gripped me tighter every day. But even then, inside me, a small heart was beating. My future. That tiny life gave me a flicker of hope to keep fighting no matter what. I couldn't hide it anymore. The secret was too heavy. One evening I finally told my mom. Her reaction was everything I feared. Tears, anger, confusion. She cried, yelling, begging me to explain. I felt like I was breaking her heart. Dad found out too. He was silent, avoiding my gaze, and the house grew cold. The support I hoped for wasn't there. Instead, there was disappointment and silence. My parents confronted Daniyar, hoping he would step up. But he denied everything. Called it a lie, refused to take responsibility. Hearing that crushed me. The one person I trusted the most turned his back. I felt utterly alone, abandoned by the boy I loved and the family I depended on. The walls around me closed in. I wanted to disappear. The shame and betrayal weighed heavily on my shoulders. My mom's sorrowful eyes haunted me, and my dad's silence was worse than words. I didn't know where to turn. That moment changed everything. I realized that I couldn't rely on anyone but myself. If I wanted to survive this, I had to be strong, stronger than I ever thought possible. Once the news spread, everything changed. School wasn't the same anymore. I was no longer just a student. I became a topic of whispers and harsh stares. Teachers avoided me, classmates mocked or ignored me. The principal told my parents I'd have to switch to homeschooling. I felt like I was being erased. My friends vanished one by one. Calls stopped. Messages went unanswered. Felt like everyone I trusted turned their backs. Even family visits grew rare. Even my grandmother stopped coming around. At home, the atmosphere was heavy. Mom cried at night, overwhelmed by worry and disappointment. Dad became cold and distant. Their pain only added to mine. I felt like a burden, a failure. The shame was suffocating. Everywhere I went, people looked at me like I'd done something unforgivable. I was isolated, trapped in a world that no longer accepted me. My growing belly was a constant reminder of my situation. Every day it felt like the walls closed in tighter. I wanted to scream, to run away, but there was nowhere to go. Yet even in that darkness, a tiny spark of hope remained. The life inside me gave me a reason to hold on, to survive, to fight, to prove that I was more than the mistakes I'd made. There was a moment when everything felt unbearable. The loneliness, the shame, the endless fear. It crushed me. One night, I found myself standing on the roof of our apartment building, the cold wind biting my skin. Below was a long drop, and for a moment I thought about jumping. I closed my eyes and imagined the pain ending, the world going silent. The weight of everyone's judgment, the betrayal, the endless nights of crying alone. I wanted it all to stop. But then deep inside I felt something, a tiny movement, a flutter. My baby, my son, was alive inside me, fighting. That small, fragile life gave me a reason to step back from the edge. I knew I had to be strong, not just for myself but for him. I walked down the stairs, tears streaming down my face, but with a newfound determination. I couldn't give up. I had to find the strength to keep going, no matter how hard it would be. That night marked a turning point. The road ahead was still full of pain and uncertainty, but I was no longer alone. I had a little life depending on me, and I would protect him with everything I had. The day I gave birth was one of the hardest and most terrifying days of my life. I was still just a kid, barely 17, facing the most adult challenge imaginable. I arrived at the hospital late at night, trying to stay as quiet and unnoticed as possible. I was scared of the pain, scared of being judged, scared of everything. My mom didn't come with me. She said she couldn't handle it. Only my aunt stayed by my side, holding my hand and whispering encouragement. The contractions were unbearable and I screamed through the pain, feeling more alone than ever. But when I finally heard my son's first cry, something inside me changed. All the fear and pain melted away for a moment. They placed him in my arms, tiny and fragile, and I felt a love so deep it scared me. He was my whole world now. I named him Aslan, a strong name, one I hoped would give him courage in this harsh world. Holding him close, I promised myself I would do everything to protect him, to give him a better life than the one I had. That day was the beginning of everything, the hardest struggle but also the greatest joy. Even when the world seemed against me, my son gave me hope and strength to keep going. When Aslan was almost a year old, Daniyar showed up at our door. I wasn't expecting him. He looked different, more serious, maybe even sorry. He brought flowers and tried to apologize. "I was a fool," he said. "I want to be part of your lives. I want to be a father." Mom wanted to believe him, but I was cautious. Part of me hoped he had changed, but deep down I wasn't sure. Still, I gave him a chance. We needed support and maybe he deserved one last shot. For a while things seemed okay. Daniar helped with Aslan, talked about the future, made promises. I wanted to believe this was real. But soon the cracks showed. Daniar disappeared for days without explanation. I found out he was seeing another woman. He lied to my face and treated me like I was nothing. When I confronted him, he became angry and cruel. "You ruined my life," he spat. I couldn't take it anymore. I told him to leave. It hurt so much to push away someone who once meant everything, but I had to protect myself and my son. That day I finally understood. Some people never change. Trusting him was a mistake, but it taught me to be stronger and never settle for less than I deserve. Now I'm 17. I study on my own, work hard, and raise Aslan alone. It's not easy, but every day I grow stronger. My son is my joy and my reason to keep fighting. I've faced betrayal, loneliness, and judgment, but I refuse to be broken. I'm still standing, still dreaming, still hoping for a better future. My story isn't just about pain. It's about survival, courage, and the power to rise again. I'm proof that even when the world turns its back, you can find light inside yourself.